The Orange Zone, sponsored by Billy Whitaker Cars and Trucks and Apex Entertainment.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Orange Zone podcast. That is former SU running back and Super Bowl champion James Mungro. I'm Samantha Croston, and we have Rachel Culver on the producer mic today. We're down Ashley. She had a few things to do, but we're excited to talk about a Syracuse win over NC State. How are we feeling?
We're feeling good. I mean, we're in a great position right now, and it's right now. It's just really sky's the limit. I mean, the situation that we're in right now, 5-1 in the ACC, 2-1. You can't ask for a better position except for being undefeated.
I mean, and it's funny because some days it feels like we were just a sniff away from that. The record overall is 5-1. You mentioned it, 2-1 in the ACC. The Orange won in Raleigh for the first time since 2013. It's Syracuse's third win in a row and second straight on the road. I think that's impressive in general, but it's also impressive because they've been on a stretch, and we're not going to get into our full preview of it this week. But Syracuse's next opponent is against the Pitt Panthers, who are currently undefeated, not to mention an ACC opponent. That's a game to be excited about and circle on your calendar, man.
If you're a Syracuse fan right now, the position that we're in is a great position. Great position, a great feeling to have to know that everything is still in front of us. I mean, all the goals that you want to accomplish, except for being undefeated, and that's almost impossible to do in this league. But all of our goals are right there in front of us.
There's no doubt about it. So we're going to talk about NC State a little bit, recap some of the things that stuck out to us, and then we'll look ahead and kind of talk about where we're feeling, some themes we've seen mid-season. To start, got to talk about this offense from NC State. Kyle McCord, 8 for 15 on third and fourth down conversions and completely controlled possessions. He threw for 346 yards and 2 touchdowns. He connected on 31 of 42 passes. Also this game, he had no turnovers. I think one thing we talked about last week was, cleaning things up. That idea of the little things make the big things. Did you feel like you saw that in this game?
I did, and that's when, just go back a little bit, UNLV, that game was very shaky.
Yep.
Very, very shaky game. We won the game, we pulled it out, and you say to yourself, all we want to do is get better for the next game. Well, we did that. We got better for NC State. We got better in special teams. Got to brush up a couple little things in special teams and just making the field goals. But besides that, each week we're getting better. And the offensive line knows, and the core of the offense knows that if you protect this man, the sky's the limit.
Coach Fran Brown had said in a press conference a few weeks ago that as long as he has Kyle McCord, he thinks there will always be a chance that he can win the game.
I agree with that. I mean, totally. I mean, he has proven it. The wide receivers have proven it, too, as well. The running backs are getting involved as well. The man is good. The man's good, and right now he's not getting the respect that is due in the ACC or in the country. But time will tell, and I think as long as he keeps playing, it's going to explain for itself.
What he's been able to do has been amazing, but I think to your point, it's not just him. This was yet another game where he's finding 7 different receivers for receptions. And he actually had said in a quote, I feel like teams are starting to have to pick and choose where they want to stop us. LaQuinn Allen had 119 yards of total offense. You had Jackson Meeks, who had another monster game, caught 11 passes for 116 yards and a touchdown. Even Gadsden, Pena. There are a lot of different people getting involved. From your experience, playing in the NFL, playing at Syracuse, like how tough is it for a team to have to game plan when there are so many different weapons the way you're seeing for Syracuse?
It's great. I mean, the funny part about it is when we talk about like the NFL situation is that, there's all these big names, all these big stars on your team, and there's only one ball. So for example, for myself, I was able to get my niche in because they were worried about everybody else. And, being a youngster on the team and not as a high-profile player like other players were, that's what you get niche in. And that's what these young men are doing. They're finding spots. They're getting in there, the wide receivers, and making a name for themselves because everybody's so worried about Gashlin and, and Pena. And now there's other guys, Meeks. Now, I mean, it's going to be tough to defend these guys.
It's funny because you mentioned like the whole NFL comparison. I will say, Fran Brown was talking in a press conference the other day, and he said that he feels like college is, and I'm curious if you guys agree with this, but he said he feels like college ball is becoming more and more like pro ball. And because of that, that's why he said, I think that in the NFL at this point, if you have a great quarterback, then you always have a chance to win. And the best teams have great quarterbacks. I just think the impact of Kyle McCord, even though he's only here for 1 year, like, cannot be understated. Like, end of the day, Fran Brown could have brought in all the people that he brought in, but Kyle McCord is the king of all this. Like, he really is the oil that runs this whole operation.
He was the key piece, and the fans and us, being Syracuse fans, being here for such a long time of being a fan, you can see now by having a quarterback that totally changes the whole dynamic of your team. And with Kyle back there, I mean, we have smiles on our face now. Finally, the fans, alumni are happy and proud of Syracuse, and not turning TV off early and stuff like that. And thanks to the hard work of the NIL deals and everything like that was got done to get this young man to our team.
He's now tied Syracuse's single season record for games with 300 yards or more passing. Like, bro, it's every game. It's like video game numbers, but it's real life. He's on pace to shatter the Orange's single season passing record, to no one's surprise. Rachel, anything stick out when you watch Kyle McCord and just from what you've seen over the past few weeks?
Yeah, so my dad was a Syracuse grad. Spent a lot of time in the Dome when he was there. He actually worked in the Dome, obviously had season tickets during his time there. But, I mean, after he graduated, I feel like he really kind of fell off of Syracuse football. Wasn't following it as much, wasn't following college football as much. I watched my first Syracuse game this season with him during the UNLV game, and there was a lot of frustration from him when it came to the defense. But every time that Kyle McCord had the ball, it was just like you could see it in his face. He was like, "Whoa, like, this guy's legit." So I think that kind of encompasses the whole message that I want to convey is, like, people who have such deep ties to Syracuse and have been connected to Syracuse for years are being, like, reinvigorated to Syracuse football because of him. Like, this offense flows through him. I just can't get over the precision in which he throws the ball. Like, how he finds these passes. He truly threads the needle, and I think that's the most exciting thing I've seen this season.
Yeah, with that touchdown, the last touchdown with Meeks, there was two guys over top of Meeks, and he got that ball in there. I mean, it was a great ball. I mean, that's the only place that ball could go, or it's going the other way. He's tremendous. But, with Kyle, I think with his attitude when he's bringing to the team, it's sparking the defense as well. I mean, just everybody's excited about it. It's not just, he is definitely the man who's running the show. But the defense, they're stepping up. I mean, he's elevating everybody's game. That's what he's doing out there.
You mentioned defense. Let's just get into it. This was a different defensive unit, defensive team that we've seen in weeks past. The Orange forced 3 turnovers in that game, including on back-to-back drives in the third quarter, and scored 21 points off of those turnovers. Coach Fran Brown saying after, the best thing that I looked at is when they did give up a big play, they didn't flinch on the next play. Justin Barron was also named the ACC Player of the Week alongside Jackson Meeks. This game was, I think, in large part about momentum, and the defense was a big part of that.
Well, what they did, what I really enjoyed watching was, unfortunately, the team was driving the ball. NC State drove the ball all the way down, and they got in the red zone multiple times, but the defense did not break. They bend, but they did not break, and that's when the turnovers occurred. And, that last turnover that happened when the quarterback fumbled the ball and because the defensive tackle got off to the ball late. So the defense then had a clear shot at him. I'm not going to say I called it, but I did call it. I said the turnover is going to happen now because you see the routine, what's happening. And, they had a young quarterback back there. But, again, you got to give credit to the defense because the guys are playing hard. They got to touch up on the tackle and still a little bit. But besides that, I mean, you see a different defense than you saw the UNLV defense.
Yep. I'm giving the defense in general the award for most improved unit. Although special teams certainly had some improvement too, and we'll get to that in a second. Just to mention it, there were some key injuries heading into this game. Deion Wilson Jr., Kevin Jobody Jr. likely to miss the rest of this season. So just things to know and be aware of as we continue through this process.
And that's when the next man steps up. I mean, and that's, the beautiful thing about Fran that I noticed too as well, when they scored, he was on the sidelines congratulating the offense, the offense line, everything like that. And then, when Meeks got off when Meeks scored his last touchdown, he had a little dance afterwards, and the coach got involved too. I mean, he's a player's coach. I mean, he's a good
Fran
coach.
Brown's energy on the sideline is incredible to watch, and I think especially in that coverage of the NC State game, the cameras did a really good job of kind of capturing that too, because you would see him on the sideline. I think it was Jackson Meek after he scored his touchdown. You caught Fran Brown on the sideline smacking Jackson Meeks on the side of the head and just like amping everybody up. Like it's really cool to watch.
No, it really is, because I said to myself, I said, wow, I wish Paul Pasqualoni would have did something like that. I could only. But
I
I mean, Fran. I mean, seriously, he's the path that the team is going on is great, and it's very exciting to watch. It's just this is the time to watch it, and they're peaking now. This is the time we need to peak at, and this is just great to watch.
And these are themes we wrote down, not to skip ahead too much, but just because we're talking about them anyway. It is that 1-2 punch. It's like Fran Brown came in months and months ago and energized this fan base, but then Kyle McCord comes in, is consistently that dude, and now you're even more excited. I think with Fran, a lot of what fans felt excited about was less even on the field, more so the culture, more so how much he cared about Syracuse. The fact that he said he wants to stay here forever, and we'll see if that comes true or not. I understand that's a big promise that's been broken, and I would understand it if some Syracuse fans feel trauma from past relationships that have been broken up. But he's a guy who many times, pretty much all the time, the things he says, he means. He doesn't say something that he doesn't mean. So I feel that a lot of Syracuse fans have a high level of trust with him. But then on top of that, to bring in a guy like Kyle McCord, and now the football is really back to a place where you haven't seen it in a while.
Yes,
of course, Syracuse fans are going to feel excited about that 1-2 punch. Just to take one beat on it, special teams, Syracuse's lone punt was not blocked. Instead, it went 59 yards, which is great. They didn't hand over to NC State any points because of special teams blunders. That was a necessary thing to achieve. Good teams don't hand over points upon points because of special teams blunders. They just don't.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't here last week, because it would have got kind of ugly. It would have got ugly.
It would have been brutal.
It would have been brutal. But they changed it. They changed it, and the one punt they did have, it didn't get blocked. But, other teams, moving forward, other teams are going to be putting up tape and watching that, stuff like that. So that's going to be a critical moment. I mean, a critical throughout the whole year of special teams.
You know what I think is different this year than the past few years that we've had this podcast and have kind of sat down with you, like what got to see and witness. And I mean this sincerely, like your emotions throughout like the course of a season. Like you can kind of tell how good or bad the Syracuse football team's doing by how James Mungro feels every Tuesday on this podcast. And in previous years, I sort of felt like part of your frustration, as your therapist, I would know.
Okay.
Part of your frustration would come from the fact that the mistakes sometimes were not being fixed.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see one thing happening. You'd see a pattern. You'd see themes that were unchanging. And penalties maybe was a thing, like I feel like that you could point to even last year. Like maybe discipline was a theme that they just couldn't get there. Whereas this year I feel like we say something, we might say it for a few weeks, like with special teams, but then at one point or another, it is getting corrected.
And that's the thing with Fran. Fran has been around, and he knows football, and he's going to get it corrected because he knows little things, how you win games. I mean, it's little things. It really is. And you got to keep your composure at all times. And, I felt like at times Syracuse didn't have that discipline at all. And, and it starts from the head man. You could talk about it, but, walk the talk.
Yep. There's no doubt about it. One thing I have noticed is that a lot of these mistakes and a lot of the sloppy play is coming in like that middle of the game, like that second and third quarter. Like I've noticed that they're having a strong first quarter, and Ashley talks about this a lot too. They have a strong fourth quarter. She's mentioned the fact that she feels like part of that could be Fran Brown and company are working on their in-game adjustments, and part of the reason it might take them a minute to get there is because Fran Brown's a first-time head coach. What have you thought about, like, not from week to week, but actually during the game?
Well, during the game, you can't make that big of an adjustment. You can make little things, but you go in with a game plan, and sometimes you may have to scratch game plan and do something different. We're going to run the ball. You think you're going to run the ball the whole time. Next thing you know, you're throwing the ball. So, I mean, you guys are – I mean, that's why you practice in the summertime, because you never know what plays you're going to use and what plays are going to be helpful in the game. So, with saying that, it's just they're playing together as a team. They're playing together. The coaching staff is playing together. You see Fran talking to the coaches on the sideline. So they're continuing to coach. You know what I mean? But it's just reiterating to the kids. Okay, stop with the shoulder, hitting the shoulders, wrap around the legs. Stuff like that. Just to reiterate stuff like that with the kids for them to understand. And when you watch the film, you see, and the kids could look at it and say, okay, I definitely going to change that. And how do I get better, coach? Or the coach recommends something to them. Now, from that standpoint, the kid has to demonstrate that on the field. Now, you can only tell a kid so many different times. In college, you just can't cut the person. In the league, the coach will tell you 3 times, and then you're done. It's over with.
Yep.
So you have to retain that information and do it on the field. And I'm not talking about a physical ability. I'm just talking about just a standpoint of a mental ability.
But you know what? All like the fact that you say that makes me think even more so. Okay, so you can't cut a kid at the college level. That means if the kid is around, you need to figure out a way to make every single kid want to work hard for you.
Yes.
I feel like that's how you combat that. And not every kid is going to play. Not every kid is going to have an on-field role. But I really do get the sense that every Syracuse football player on this 2024 team feels important. That matters from a culture standpoint, that everybody wants to cheer and wants to celebrate. And you see that in the sideline celebrations and everything.
The kicker. The kicker,
for crying out loud.
The kicker laid somebody out. The kicker laid somebody out. I mean,
who doesn't love to see that? That's just great TV.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's getting involved and everyone's excited. The kicker is just only over there playing with his thumbs until he's needed, but he's involved. He's excited. Everyone's excited, and that's how you build a good team, a winning team. And they're on that path. They're 5-1. So, this next game coming up is going to be a great game, and this is exactly where we want to be at and show the nation who we're made of.
Yeah, listen, this game coming up is massive. There's a bye week, and then, of course, we'll do our pit preview next week. But this is a game that's coming up against an undefeated team. I believe in their previous ranking, they were somewhere around like 23 or 24, but someone check me on that if that's wrong.
I think they're 20th this week.
Okay, 20th this week, so improved even a little bit. That is a great opportunity, like for this team to potentially be ranked after that. How many weeks have we talked about is Syracuse going to be ranked? They're not going to be ranked, and they haven't been ranked yet.
But people have been losing, and it's been crazy with these good teams that are losing. And
so many different factors come into play. It's not just about Syracuse; it's obviously about the other teams too.
Whoever wins the national championship in the playoffs is definitely going to be one team losses in there. So I mean, the field is wide open still. So therefore, when I say goals are still there, yes, goals are still there. These guys can make it to the playoffs, and all they have to do is win games.
And see, that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
I am so happy that they expanded that field, because now you actually, just as a fan, you get the sense of anything is still possible here. It's not like one loss makes you, the entire season is off course.
But we're not the only team. That's what one loss.
I know.
There's a lot of teams.
I know.
So it's pretty much the borders erased, and it's all start from the beginning.
And it's achievable is all I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Couple minutes left, and then we'll wrap it up. Rachel wrote down a couple of themes, a couple of talking points about where we are halfway through the season. And out of the things you wrote down, Rachel, what's one thing that sticks out to you that you want to talk about?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like there's a couple really good ones here, but the one that stuck out to me as like the most shocking, and I feel like I want to hear Mungro on, is ESPN's Football Power Index projects Syracuse to finish at 7-5 this year. I want to hear thoughts on the 7-5 projection.
Well, when you say projections, like, what do they really know? Are they really here?
They're taking advantage of all the statistics and everything that they've seen so far.
I know all the analytics and all that, they're throwing that stuff all together. But in reality is this, something you have to go out there and play. And, when you see like that, something 7-5, all that does is fuel you and make you want to get better. That's my attitude. And, I bleed orange, and that's how it always been, with being Orangeman. It makes you want to work harder. It makes you want to prove people wrong. So I'm glad that they say we're 7-5, because right now we're 5-1. So and we're just gonna get better. So the index, I think you can use it for whatever you want to use it for. But the bottom line is you have to go out there and play the game, and you either win or you lose. And right now we're not in that situation right now.
Yep. I mean, the other one that sticks out to me is Rachel puts down here a question: what changes when Marlo Wax returns, if and when he's able to return? That is important. I mean, it's funny, like, there has been such a next man mentality that so many other people have been able to step up. But that was a really important, really key part of this team who Syracuse lost early. I'd be curious to see what happens once they have him back. And she puts as her last bullet, bowl game, and a good one at that is well within reach, to the points that we've been making all along. Success is on the horizon, and I think it's a matter of whether or not Syracuse is going to go out there and take it.
Yeah, and in recent years, we have been very successful early on in the season, and we had that downfall. I don't foresee that happening with Fran, and I don't foresee that happening with the players as well in their attitudes, because their attitudes right now. This is the best. This is the best position Syracuse has been in many years, in a long time, and this is something. This could be a very special first season for Kyle and the coaching staff, and us fans ourselves. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
You're honestly so right, though. You're so right. I feel like that's one other theme that we haven't talked about, is that has sort of been the name of this game in some previous seasons recently, is there would be, a great first half of the season and then a clunker of a second half. That's not going to happen this year, though. And everybody kind of knows that. You can tell that the foundation and the structure here is different.
And I think that the Stanford game told us a lot about that. Seeing the reaction of those players post-game and just seeing there was pain there. They were really upset, and that's something that that everybody on this team is going to work to avoid with everything that they have.
They let that slip by, Stanford, and maybe that and again, it's eye opener. It's an eye opener saying, listen, okay, we got this loss, but look, around the country, there's other teams that are losing as well. So as long as we keep our stuff together and keep playing the way we play and get better each week, our goals are still achievable. And they're right there. So yeah, we could say, win the conference. We could say go to playoffs, go to national championship. It's all in reach.
And I will say that there was something, speaking of other teams losing around the country, might as well throw this in. There was something satisfying. I was watching the games side by side, the Ohio State game and the Syracuse game on Saturday, and there was something satisfying about seeing Ohio fall. You just think about that quote from Fran Brown, send Ryan Day a bottle of champagne for giving us Kyle McCord.
Oh, you think about it. You think about it. We all think about it. All right.
A couple bottles of champagne.
Yeah, right. I have 3 minutes left. I have to tell you this story, and it's a bummer because I'm trying to look for my punchline, but I think you'll know the guy who I'm talking about. I got to tell you this. Okay. I was at my chiropractor the other day, right? Walk in. It's this place called Allied Spine and Sports Medicine or something like that. And normally I go to this guy named Greg, but he's not there. They're like, we're going to send you to this other guy. So I walk in to this room, and what do I see? But that 1997 Big East Champions plaque that you gave us on this set. This guy has the plaque.
Hold on. Let's clarify this part. I loaned it to y'all. I didn't give it to you.
You loaned it to us. Okay. I understand. We all know that it's yours. My point is, why am I seeing that there? And I'm like, I've seen this before. And I said, I have this. And he's like, how do you have this? I'm like, because James Mungro gave it to us. My chiropractor is a tight end who played on your team. And I am forgetting his name, and that's why I'm bummed out. But it's a guy who played with you. He's like a bald, tall, white dude. And he said that he played on the team with you. So I will find out the name of who it was.
Maybe the last name Parker?
Wait, maybe. I'm going to find out on the next podcast.
I'm almost positive it's Parker.
I'm going to bring it to you because he's like, yeah, tell him, Mungro, what's up? I said hi and everything. And I'm like.
If I'm not mistaken, I know his brother very well, Corey Parker. He was our strength coach at Syracuse University. Then his younger brother played on their team as well. Unfortunately, I just can't remember his first name. I'm
going to look. There's one tab that says, oh, my God, Barrett Parker. That's him.
Barrett, that's it. Barrett.
That's him, baby.
Yep.
I was like, that's just so weird.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I would go in and see that there.
Well, I'm glad I know I can get a chiropractor now. So I have to get his number.
Listen, honestly, all that aside, if your back hurts, this dude was
my back
awesome.
and my neck, everything. Oh God, goodness. Okay.
I'm telling you, man. Teammates coming back together for a cause.
Yes, he was no
joke.
Good guy. Real good guy.
Yeah. Well, anyway, just had to tell you that. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. As always, great time to tell you can find us anywhere. We have Instagram, Twitter, all over social media. We're also on YouTube. Honest to God, I think the easiest way is just type us into Google, the Orange Zone Podcast Syracuse, and we'll pop right up. Other than that, we will see you back here next week for a Pitt Panther preview. That's James Mungro. We got Rachel Culver. I'm Sam Croston.
We are coming,
We coming.
Pitt. We are
I'll see you
coming,
next
Pitt.
week. We'll see you next week.